Opinionated Idiot here. And before the video plays, I just want to give a shout out to Daniel and Blue over at the Drunk Turkey Show and Hyman as well too. I know that he was in the chat earlier, but he just couldn't make it on the panel. Look, I am ever so grateful that they joined over on my panel to hang out, and we had a really good time. So check out this video. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and sit back and enjoy. Oh yeah, we are live. We're live with the Drunk Turkeys. I found these guys, got them over here on the channel. We're gonna hang out a little bit this evening. Welcome back to the Opinionated Idiot YouTube channel, and it's March 9, 2023. What's going on, guys? How are you?
We're doing good, man. We're doing good. It's been a good day today. We've had a few shows ourselves and been looking forward to tonight for a bit. So I'm glad we're on.
Yeah, man. I appreciate everybody for coming over. Blue, how you doing, man? How are you this evening?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, I know the other day I promised I was going to drink, but I'm under the weather. I'm taking medicine, so I can't drink tonight. So I'm just drinking good old tea, red diamond tea.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, listen, I just want to make sure that everybody knows we got about an hour with the Drunk Turkeys tonight. They do have some other commitments, so it's totally cool. I appreciate their time, but I just want to let the audience know if they got to jump off, cool to do that. Maybe I'll just continue on with the show. We'll just see how things flow here. But before we get started into the meat of the show, I just want to welcome new channel members, BC, SC, Teresa, Leah Stories, Helena. Thank you so much for being a channel member. And I think I just saw another member up here earlier too. Amber S is also a new channel member. So thank you so much. Guys, we see your chats, but we got limited time. I appreciate everybody for chatting, but we're going to kind of get into the show here. So I wanted to just pick your brains. Like, how did you guys get involved with, seeing this case? Was it really the media coverage that was going around, and what kind of pulled you into the case?
Well, first we got to start off that's around the time we started talking about true crime.
Sure.
We got involved in a true crime and what was going on with the arrest of Richard Allen in the Delphi case.
Yeah.
And, we were talking about the probable cause that came out of that, and just kind of keeping an eye into, what was else going on in the world as far as these type of cases and these type of things that were going on. And all of a sudden, we get notified on, or we see on the news for, college students, their lives are taken. Immediately, it's just shock, right?
Yeah.
It's not even, thinking about the YouTube channel at that point. It's just like, wow, this is insane. Yeah, is this real? And then, realizing that there's at the very least, a spree killer on the loose. For us, we're like, this is something we need to talk about. There's vehicles that are going out. And it was more also because we were watching a bunch of different other channels, and there was a lot of stuff that was coming out that wasn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of a lot of speculation, a lot of things that were like on Reddit and things like that, which I'll be honest, a lot of it ended up kind of being somewhat true when you find out about the bushy eyebrow guy. So that was a Reddit story. But yeah, we saw that there was a mystery behind it. There was justice that needed to be served for these 4 students whose lives were taken. And, it started off with, let's find a white Hyundai Elantra, and went from there.
Yeah. I mean, for myself, I, once I heard about this, I started kind of, you jump on YouTube and see what people are talking about. And that's how I came across you guys. And funny enough, I think probably about 3 months ago, I actually was a call-in guest on your show, and we did a segment on that. And I said, there's something here. I need to start kind of looking into this and talking about it. And I don't know. It's just, it was very bizarre because it just didn't seem like things would add up. And then, for me, just seeing 4 victims in a house and no one knew anything, that for weeks we're kind of like, what is going on? Are they going to catch this person? And then I just started thinking to myself, I was like, maybe it's just like a serial killer. He came through town, did this, bounced out. But it just seemed like after a while hearing evidence and seeing evidence, it was like, this is definitely someone that's close to these people that knew them or was in and around that area.
Right.
What stood out to me in the case, I remember talking to the guys about it. Like, hey, this case came out. Maybe we should look into it. Was there was two victims alive, and I mean not two victims. Two of the roommates were
Sure. Yeah.
alive. So I was like, man, he walked in there and killed four and left two alive. So that's pretty crazy to me. I thought that was a pretty interesting story to look
It's
into.
bizarre. Like as things came out, you're kind of like, what? There was two people that survived. Like they had to be involved. They were probably the ones that did it. That was kind of going through my head. And then we started seeing body cam footage of there was the one when the Moscow police were out in the fields right in between King Road and the university, and you see runners run by, and you're like, who are those people? Like let's frame by frame it, and then come to find out it was just some kids running through the area. So it's crazy. And then just to hear a lot of the conspiracies that people are coming up with, or theories, or opinions.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, and that was one thing that you even had that one TikTok lady who ended up getting sued. And so, there was a lot of that we were seeing, and that also kind of, pushed us in that direction. Cause I've told a lot of folks, when we first started the Drunk Turkey Show, it wasn't true crime wasn't something that we were even considering doing.
Yeah.
It was more on, we wanted to talk about Bigfoot, aliens,
Travis Walton. You had some Travis Walton videos.
Travis Walton. Yeah. We wanted to investigate those type of stuff, but we Richard Allen gets arrested. One of our viewers was like, hey, try a true crime show, and I was like, yeah, well, let's talk about this situation. It's pretty popular, and just see if we can bring something to the table. And go ahead, Blue.
I said, because we did do a few early true crime, but they were older crimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We did the case. We did the little girl, the one that got murdered in the basement.
JonBenet Ramsey. And there's actually been updates on that case right now too. I don't know if you guys know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we did JonBenet Ramsey, and folks were really positive about it. They were like, man, we really want more of this type of content. And so that's what got us into this one. And, just kind of going through it and going through what, probably like all the information that's come out in this case, which in my opinion is quite a bit.
Yeah.
Especially early on.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, I'm sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
There was a lot of press releases that's normally not common. You know what I mean? And so I think that the reason being was because of the attention that was gathered from the type of case this is.
Yeah, if I can ask both of you guys, maybe a roundtable right here real quick. How did you feel about when Bryan Kohberger was first arrested, and what kind of minimal information we had at that point? Just maybe the PCA, or just even before that. And now, so I want to, did you think maybe allegedly he could be the guy? And now with all the evidence that's come out, has that swayed you in any direction? Like, oh, it's positively 100% him, or do you still feel like there's some unfound facts in this case? I think there's a lot more. Personally, myself, I think there's going to be a lot more stuff that comes out.
Blue, I'll let you answer first.
Okay, so when it first happened, we had just done the video like the night before.
Sure.
About the bar scene that had just been released. We were looking at the videos, and we kind of made out that one of the guys looked like the can't remember the girl's name's boyfriend.
Jack.
Jack. Yeah, he was at the bar because it was the same hat, same shoes. It said it's got to be him, and they kept saying that he was at home, that he wasn't there. So at first, we're going on a wild goose chase, I think, to say, hey, maybe something he's not saying something, and then the next day, boom, they arrest Kohberger, and we're like, man, we're way off.
I think a lot of people were thinking that right away, like, oh, it's got to be the ex-boyfriend, it's got to be it. And then all of a sudden, you had kind of this, mystery guy, like, who's this guy? Like, where did he pop up from? You're like, yeah, it was way off.
Yeah. I mean, Jack DeCourt was a guy that we looked at a little bit.
Yeah.
we thought there was some suspicion there, but there was one thing that I often said was, if it was him, they would have arrested him like way early in the investigation. And so that was one thing that really bothered me about it being him. I felt that the police would have that information. Early on in this investigation, I had said that I thought this was going to be a guy somewhere between the age of like 24 to 30, somebody outside of the circle, somebody who wants to be inside the circle, probably outside of their means, meaning not to the same statue as far as wealth goes. These were sorority girls. Just to be in a sorority costs an extra like $4,000 a semester on top of tuition and stuff like that. So it's not like it's inexpensive stuff. And so I felt that this was going to be somebody outside. I didn't really go down the incel theory at that point or anything like that. When he was arrested, it made I was like, all right, makes sense. I felt that it was probably going to be somebody that we weren't aware of. Jack was a guy that, is the first person that usually, you look at. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kohberger's defense team really pushes that narrative.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at it from the defense's point of view. They're going to look at this like, all right, in most typical situations where there's a crime that's committed with this much, with a knife for once, and this much, just the gross nature in which it was committed is usually committed by somebody with a lot of emotion.
Right.
And usually that emotion comes from, a breakup or, you have this guy. We found out throughout the investigation that the breakup was within a month. They'd only been broken up for 3 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
She was leaving. We find out that from the parents that she did go on at least one date. Maybe he found out about that. We find out that he was at the corner bar that night.
Yep.
There's a lot of things, and usually the ex-boyfriend. And we also find out she's moving to Texas too.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things that point in that direction that, he looks suspicious. And, one thing that I will say is there's been a couple of different stories that has come out about Jack. One from the Gonsalves family that he didn't answer the phone because he was asleep.
Right.
And there's been another one that I've heard where apparently he wasn't asleep. He purposely didn't answer the phone because of a what's the word I'm looking for? I guess he was getting crap from his guys. Or like, hey,
right,
man, pussy whoop.
Yep.
Let her come back to you type of stuff. And which one is it? Was he asleep? Was he not asleep? Did he purposely not answer the phone? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What was I going to ask? So I wanted to go, if we can just fast forward a little bit. Let me just get to these super chats really quick because I do want to
go for it. Go for it. Man.
Yeah, Steelers
fan. Yeah. I think we'll be all right, man. We'll be good.
For sure.
You don't have to go too fast.
I got you. Steelers fan says, great show. We'll give him a bell on that one. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Dr. Bob, one of my moderators, is in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. He says, it is super chat night. We'll give him a bell on that one there. And Chris Pepper with a $1.99 super sticker. I really appreciate that, Chris. Chris is a regular over here as well, and I'm sure he's subscribed to the Drunk Turkeys. And anybody that is on the, checking out this stream tonight that's not over on the Drunk Turkey Show, please go over, subscribe to their channel as well. I'll drop the link later on in here and just give those guys some love because they're super cool guys. So we really appreciate that. I want to jump forward to the timeline.
But before we do that, I have one other statement to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kohberger went to the doctor the week after the murders. Mm-hmm. He went to work the week after the murders. He was seen around. Nobody talks about any scratches, any injuries to him. We're expected to believe that he didn't have injuries, right? That he did this because of maybe perhaps his kickboxing skills or whatever it may be. But one of the things that from the Gonsalves interview with Olivia was that they checked him for scratches and stuff, and he didn't have any. well, if we're expected to believe that Kohberger can go in and do this and not get scratched up, shouldn't we also have that same expectation for somebody else?
Yeah, it's true. I'm going to ask you, where do you stand? Where do you stand on
I think it's Kohberger. I say all of that too.
I knew I would get it. Blue, where do you stand?
I would go with the DNA. It's his
Yeah,
DNA on there.
That's going to be the tough one.
It's going to be a tough one for. My thing is, I think I haven't heard him talk one word. I don't even know what his voice sounds like, except for his rap. We did hear his rap song. But I think he's going to be like a narcissistic kind of person where he's going to want to talk and tell his story.
Yeah.
To tell his
I get
side.
Elliot Rodgers feeling from him. I just that whole vibe,
Yeah.
I'll say this about it. I think Kohberger's involved. I don't know if he's the only one involved. I'll say that. I'll put it there.
It's funny that you say
I have
that.
Reasons for that.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny that you say that, Daniel, because it's funny. I went over before we did this this session tonight or the show tonight, and I started reading through the PCA again, and I don't know. It's still very strange to me that the initial PCA was dropped. All those names were redacted. There's another thing in there. I don't know if you ever caught it, that they said that the police downloaded the forensic evidence of Dylan Morton's and Bethany Funk's phone. Why would they do that? So there's just some very interesting things in there that kind of throw up some red flags too. I don't know if they're involved. I'm not saying they're involved, but there's some red flags around that.
Well, that would be standard
Okay.
operations and procedure. You have somebody that survived, that you're going to ask them for their phone and get it down regardless of anything.
Sure.
And so I understand the speculation behind it, and why would they do that? Especially, you have two people that survived this incident. But I would reckon that regardless of anything, whether they were not involved, completely innocent, they would have done the exact same thing. If they are not innocent, I'm not saying that they're not.
Sure. Let me just acknowledge this really quick. We got a $10 super sticker from Kristen Brown. Appreciate that. She's a channel member and a moderator in the group. Really do appreciate that. Amber sent over a $1.99 super sticker, and we got SC in here. She has smashed the like button with a $4.99 super chat as well too. So can we talk about the timeline? Because that seems to be the really big issue with everybody. Presumably between 10 and 15 minutes, 9 and 15 minutes, 16 minutes, whatever way you want to sway it. Did he have enough time to go in and do, presumably, allegedly, what had happened in that house? I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there was another channel that did a 3D model of actually the drive-through of the car and the incident in the home. I don't know if you guys mind, but I wanted to pull that up and just play it for the audience if they haven't seen it. Maybe we can discuss a little bit of that.
Yeah.
It's from Van Life.
Yeah. So shout out to Van Life. We're going to use your video here. We appreciate it. But let's play through this. We'll give everybody
Greetings, travelers.
If anybody knows them or knows how to get a hold of them, tell them to reach out. I'd like to get some of their stuff on here and talk to them about it as well.
Oh, do we have sound?
Bryan Kohberger, the suspect, is believed to have entered the neighborhood at 3:29 a.m. Approaching the house, he noticed the lights are on. This hinders his plan, and he now has to rethink things. He continues on to the back where he sees even more lights on. From the affidavit, we know he drove by the house 3 times in less than 5 minutes, probably trying to figure out what to do next. He finally decides to leave the area for a little while and observes the lights are on one last time in front as he drives off. Cameras show him leaving the neighborhood and exiting on Walenta Drive in this direction. It's uncertain which way he went from this point here, but we know that he is seen here at this location at 3:45 a.m., caught on a gas station security camera. Wondering if this could truly be a 2015 Elantra, I downloaded a known image of one with a similar angle of view. I then entered that into a 3D modeling software and added some lighting and then tilted the camera to get a similar angle. I then animated the image to be traveling at 40 miles per hour, giving motion blur, which ended with this result. Though not scientific, we can see very close similarities that this is a 2015 Elantra. Back to the map. We see the suspect re-enters the neighborhood at 4:04 a.m. He drives up to the house and slows down. Looking at the windows, he sees the lights are now off. Continuing to the back, he checks to see if those lights are off. They are. He's excited. He knows everyone is finally in bed, but he wants to check the front one last time. As he drives down, he's filled with adrenaline, seeing the lights are all off. His brain short circuits for a second as he clumsily tries to turn around in front of the house. It fails, but he regains composure and drives on. He's caught on camera making a 3-point turn at the end of the street to return back to the residence. He does his final drive to the back of the house. In the beginning, most of us believed the 2 surviving roommates, Bethany and Dylan, were sleeping on the first floor. Since then, we've learned Dylan was sleeping here on the 2nd floor, along with Xana and Ethan located here. Kaylee and Madison were located here on the 3rd floor. The dog was located on the 3rd floor and the room by itself. Let's move around and see through the walls into the kitchen, to the back slider, and take a look at the time frames. At 4:04 a.m., the suspect can be seen trying to park his car. At 4:09, approximately 5 minutes later, he enters the house through the back slider. At 4:18, he leaves the house after committing the crimes. At 4:20, he's caught on camera driving away at a high rate of speed. All of this only took 9 minutes. Let's watch what that looks like. The suspect enters through the back sliding door. He pauses at the stairs to look around to make sure no one's up. He then turns and goes upstairs. The first bedroom he stops at and opens the door, he sees no one there. He continues to the next bedroom. Here we know what happens. Downstairs, Dylan is sleeping. The noise from upstairs wakes her up. She thinks it's Kaylee playing with her dog. She gets up and goes to the door and looks out. She sees nothing there. The suspect then continues down the stairs about 3 minutes later. He then heads to Xana's room.
Are you saying you don't think he went to the dog
Outside,
room
there's
first?
a security camera picking up some whimpering.
I don't know. I just don't
cries in
understand
the
why she
thud at
thinks that.
4:17.
Yeah.
We've learned that Xana was found on the floor, which might explain the thud. Dylan again hears something and looks outside her door. She sees the suspect. He walks right past her and leaves.
So how do you feel about that timeline?
I think it's somewhat accurate. I think he was in the house a little bit earlier than 4:09. I think he was there probably about 4:05, 4:07. It's only a couple minutes, but when you look at the fact that, you know, if he's there at 4:07 and out of there by 4:19, that's some significant time versus 4:19 or 4:09 and 4:17 or whatever she said. It makes a difference. I know a lot of people will say that it's at 4:00 they were in their beds and or, you know, asleep, which leads me to believe that I think that the DoorDash was a little bit earlier than 4 a.m., probably about 3:50, 3:55. What I'm assuming is he dropped it off, took a picture, walked back to his car, uploaded it, saved it. That message or whatever has to go through, whatever it has to go through before it logs in, and logged in around 4:00 in the morning. But I think it was probably a little bit before. But I think he went straight to the rooms. I think he knew, you know, I'm assuming that, you know, she may be, you know, thinking that he was going in there because he thought Kaylee was in there. but it's been reported that he had pictures of Madison on his phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he was just going straight for Madison first, and then, upstairs. The other thing that I thought though was is if the meal did get there at 4 o'clock, and or just after 4, and he went in while they were downstairs or something, right? And as he's coming down, Ethan and Xana are walking back into the
Right.
room. They can hear something after they've already dropped their food off, because the food, or at least the Jack in the Box bag, was in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's pictures of it in the kitchen, and so they didn't eat it in their room. They had to have at least at one point put that bag there. I don't think Kohberger put the bag there.
Yeah, it's not going to drop off lunch on the way out.
Right, he's not, or even
I'm trying not to
picked
make
up.
light of the situation, but you know what I'm saying. I don't think he's worried about that.
Right, or
Yeah.
not even that. Like, for instance, like if like this doesn't make it. There's no explanation if that meal or that bag or trash was, let's just say, in Xana's room. They took it to go eat in Xana's room.
Yeah.
He didn't pick it up from Xana's room and go put it in the kitchen. And so I believe that meal was consumed in the kitchen and the bag was left there. And so the question is, was Kohberger upstairs while they were in the kitchen consuming the meal?
Wow.
And
yeah.
if so, perhaps maybe that's why he felt the need to attack them. Maybe he heard them say, "I think somebody's here," and he followed into them, and that's might be a reason why he skipped Dylan's room.
Yeah.
Maybe the plan wasn't ever to go after 4, but it's pretty ballsy, man, for him to do that when you see so many cars outside of the house if you're only going for 1.
Let me ask you, when he circled and he did kind of that crappy 3-point turn, do you think he was inside his head like that, kind of like, I'm going to do it, I'm not going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm not, like that hesitation? Or do you think
for
that
sure. Yeah, I think he was trying to gain that confidence to do it. Whether it was, light on or whatever the case is, he was driving around to gain the confidence to commit the crime.
Yeah, those are all that was the thing that I always know, when it was like on the PCA, we did this kind of weird 3-point turn. I'm like, that's hesitation. That's, I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it, and built, like you said, building that confidence to get up and actually do this. So I don't know. I think that the timeline for myself, you can do a lot if it's 9 or 15 minutes. That's a lot. It's a lot of time. It is a lot of time, because just sit, I tell everybody, grab a timer and time yourself. Just sit there for 9 to 15 minutes. And it's a long time.
So it's a very long time. Like,
yeah,
I set timers all day at work, and I can do a lot of stuff within a 10-minute period.
Yeah.
So it's plenty of time to walk into 5 rooms, 4 rooms, in and out. It's real quick.
So
yeah.
You were saying earlier that I just want to get your stance on this. You think Kohberger is definitely involved in it, but you might have a feeling that someone else is involved in this. Do you think either a driver or someone that actually went into the home itself with him?
That aspect, I'm not entirely sure. The reason why I think that there's somebody else involved is the fact that it's been brought up a lot in these court documents, and I brought this up in our live last night. I was like,
Sure.
One time could be a mistake, twice is coincidence, 3 is a pattern. There's been multiple documents that have come out, and one most recently, 2 days ago, a motion to seal, I guess, who the property release and stuff like that. And one of the reasons that they listed there for was because they did not want to release the identity of a confidential source. And so we've seen confidential source, we've seen confidential informant, we've seen the term co-defendant.
Yeah.
There's been so much of this that it's making me wonder. And then you also look at the pattern in which Kohberger was driving. To me, it makes me feel that he was either he picked somebody up or
drop them off.
something was going on, because the direction of travel that he's going to when he gets to the house does not make sense from the direction in which he was coming from.
Right. What was I going to say too? And the other thing that kind of threw me off too is that he made that quote, "Did you arrest anybody else?" And I don't know if that's just a tactic by him to throw law enforcement off, or, really he's looking like, did you arrest anybody else? Like, am I the only one arrested? He did make that statement. So that's always been in my back of my head too.
Yeah.
I mean, he may have made that statement because he may have been wondering if maybe somebody else in his house may have been arrested. It's come to find out that he was in the kitchen, going through the trash when he was arrested. So I assume they exited him out of the nearest exit possible in restraints. And so he may not have known if maybe perhaps his father was also arrested, who drove him across the country.
Yeah.
And so it could be the fact that he might be pulling, who was the guy? Was it John Wayne Gacy or something like that?
John Wayne Gacy, yeah.
Was he the one that said, is there somebody else that got arrested when he got arrested also? I could be wrong.
It might be, yeah. Or no, I think Ted Bundy say, maybe Ted Bundy said that. I know one of them did, yeah.
Yeah. Jaime is the one that nobody knows.
Yeah, Jaime is our expert when it comes to those type of things. Like, when it comes to our show, I was once in law enforcement. I see a couple people asking about that. Big Blue is our medical professional, and Jaime is our
historian
when it comes to the serial killers. So yeah, he definitely would know.
I want to get your take on why you think that when it's kind of a stupid question, but I'll go with it. Why do you think in the initial PCA that Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk's name was redacted? Do you think it's just because they were witnesses, or is there a little bit more there?
No, I just think it's because they're witnesses. I mean, if you look at the probable cause affidavit for the Richard Allen case, those, at the time they redacted them because there were juveniles. They continue to redact them because you want to protect witnesses, even though they're no longer juveniles. And so the probable cause came out here recently because his arrest came out recently. And so I don't see that as a big deal. But, at the end of the day, the accused has the right to, face their accuser in a court of law. And so they're going to know who it is.
Let me roundtable this real quick. What do you think is the connection to Kohberger and those 4 students? And do you think that he's ever been inside that house before? Maybe a party? Do you think, what is your feeling, the connection?
I'll let you go first, bud.
I want to say with the girls at the restaurant, he probably ran into them there. I want to say he probably went to eat there, and maybe he got infatuated by one of them and got turned down. And to somebody that probably has as many issues as he had, it was not a good turn down to me.
Yeah.
I solely think that maybe perhaps he may have seen one of them online and began a stalking thing. I think it's Madison. I think he may have come across her, maybe even Kaylee, and came across Madison as a friend of hers off of Kaylee's whatever. Like, for instance, like her Facebook or whatnot. What I'm thinking is maybe he came across one of these ladies on a dating website.
Sure.
Kaylee went out on a date or something like that with somebody. So she had to have met this person that she really didn't know very well, that called her, supposedly called her a bitch. And this is from her family that said this. Maybe perhaps he came across that profile, swiped right. They didn't swipe right on him, but, he got infatuated with one of them and began to follow him. The other thing is, too, I mean, if you Google search vegan restaurant in the Moscow area, the Mad Greek is the first one that pops up. So, one of those two things may have been happening. I don't think that this guy has ever talked to them personally, to be honest with you. I think he may have tried to make contact with them online. maybe perhaps sent messages. I think that's been reported already, but I don't think he ever made contact with him. Has he been inside the house? It's quite possible. There's been a lot of people that have been inside that house a numerous amount of times, and one thing that Kohberger can say is, I've been in that house before. I had a knife with a knife sheath and I lost it. I left my knife sheath there in that house at a party once.
I mean, at this point, why wouldn't he, right? Why wouldn't he say something like that to help in his defense?
Right. We've seen, there's been reports that there's been upwards of 150 people at that house before at a party. So it's, and there's video evidence of a lot of people there. So, that's why when a lot of folks say, oh, there's DNA, there's this, there's that, they have them there. Well, if he turns around and says, I've been there, then you got a problem, because, I mean, even if he was never invited or anything, who's to say he never crashed it? That's all he has to really say, to be honest with you.
So I wanted to pull this up because I've been hearing this name around a lot, and I just wanted to get you guys' theory on this. So Becky says it's been proven that Ina Harsh has ties in this case. He knew facts about the case before any news show that came up about. Also, the white Honda Elantra went into Ina Harsh's parents' house after the murders. How do you feel about this theory?
I don't know anything about a white Elantra going to his parents' house. I haven't seen that. I think that Enan Harsh didn't do himself any favors when he went out there and started speaking to the media. And I think he said some pretty I don't know. He said some things that raised some red flags, predominantly. I can't even say that damn word. It was just some of the things that he was saying, like, for instance, I think he mentioned something about something being sloppy and this, that, the third. And it was just kind of the way they described the scene. But in my opinion, I think he was doing more clout chasing than anything else. The only thing that he said, in my opinion, that he said before anybody else was, I think, the scream at 4 a.m. I'm not sure what else. Do you remember him saying anything else that maybe was out there before anyone else knew?
Not that I know about him saying something about the situation. The only thing that I see that seemed weird to me was the whole story about he was going to throw away some wine, and then
that never happened.
And he went to go give it to him because he didn't want to throw it away. That just sounds way off to me.
Nah, that never happened. I can tell that guy said two different stories when it came to that wine store. He said that he was throwing it away. He said another time that he gave it to them as some kind of gift or whatever. And he had two different stories about that. I felt that interaction only happened in his head, to be honest with you.
Another name that's been thrown around there too is Bryan Kohberger. As we know, he was the WSU shooter, and I believe that he was killed. That the police actually took him down on the. And that's another name that's been kind of thrown around, saying that this guy's been involved with Kohberger, or another theory out there is that it wasn't Kohberger and it was really this guy, and they're leeching on to Kohberger to put someone to go down. How do you guys feel about that?
I'll say this, that we had a caller last night on our show come out and had some pretty interesting points about that case. One thing he said was that, these victims that were threatened, nobody knows who they are. They haven't come forward. There's no images or video of this standoff. There's little information about it other than the fact that it happened.
Sure.
Right. And so, I can't explain that. As far as Kohberger being involved in this, outside of, him trying to, take the lives of his roommates and allegedly, that's allegedly what was going on when the SWAT team went there. And outside of his former training and the fact that, people can put whatever dots they think they can put just because he had PTSD and say that, just because he has PTSD doesn't mean he's going to commit a crime like this. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I don't see a lot of evidence that points him in that direction, other than the fact that he had, he lived in the area. He had the means to do this because of the fact that he had training and he would know how to handle a weapon like a knife and things like that. So he had means. We don't know what he was doing the night of the incident or where his whereabouts were or what his alibi would be to know if he would have had opportunity. And the other thing is, what's the motive? Like, where, over here with Kohberger, there's at least, some sort of evidence that he was by the neighborhood or in the neighborhood. He was following them. He was, um, following them socially on their social media. He was messaging them. So there's more of a connection there than there wouldn't be with Bryan Kohberger to say that it is him.
Yeah.
Now, does he have any ties to Kohberger? I don't know. I've heard some mixed stories about his occupation. I've heard he was an IT guy at the University of Idaho. I've heard he was a security guard at Washington State University. So I don't know which one is true. I haven't deep searched into his background to know which one is true, just because there hasn't been any evidence, in my opinion, that really points in his direction outside of maybe Kohberger being parked about, what was it, 700 feet away from his house for a few minutes prior to him taking off to Moscow.
Yeah. It's interesting. And then one more angle I wanted to ask you about. It's a big cartel killing, and there was tons of drugs being dealt out from that house. And this is a revenge killing because Xana's mom has been, I'm sure you've heard all the stories, involved in drugs and arrested in Arizona. And I don't know. I don't see this. I just don't see the angle there.
Yeah, the drug thing, we've heard that too. I don't think narcotics were the reason behind this. Now, do I think that there could have been some type of illicit drugs inside of that house, or perhaps maybe the victims may have consumed illegal narcotics at a certain point? I mean, there's Kaylee at the Grub Truck video, taking smoking a vape.
Yeah.
Is that just a regular vape, or is that a THC vape? I mean, does that make you a target for something? No. You know what I'm saying? So, is it a party house? Yeah. Was it this? I've had, like, for instance, a lot of folks question the caller Kim, the WSU mom. She called us.
Yep.
And she called the place trap house. And if you look up the definition of what a trap house is, it's a place where you can score drugs. And if you tell me that nobody has purchased drugs in that house at any point in the last couple of years, I think you're naive.
Well, they're college students.
Party house.
Yeah. They're smoking pot, and I'm sure there's probably, I'm just allegedly saying, there's party drugs. There's probably some cocaine and, stuff like that going on. I mean, I've seen videos with Kaylee and Maddie just recently. They were in some lazy river somewhere and going down, and Kaylee had her vape, and like you said, I don't know if it's a smoking vape or a THC. They're kids, they're hanging out, they're 20, 21, 19 years old, they're partying.
There's absolutely nothing wrong, nothing wrong with what they're doing, to be honest with you. I mean, it is what it, they're growing up, they're young adults growing up,
right?
And so with that being said, like, I don't think it played a role in that aspect. It may have played a role as to why the police weren't called right away.
I want to get to that too.
That might be the case, but I don't think it played a role in why it happened. I think this happened more because of an infatuation from somebody. And
it seems like a crime of passion to me.
Well, that's what Kohberger said.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, he told his neighbor that it seems like a crime of passion.
Yeah. So the time in between, we got what was it, 8 or 10 hours in between before the cops are called. My theory on it was, like we just talked about, there's a lot of stuff going on in that house. You have 2 individuals that wake up. You have 4 individuals that are murdered in the house. You see it. Holy shit. The first thing my thought would be, just if I was in that house, I walk out and I see my friends murdered, what do I fucking do? Like, I would start panicking. I would say, now I'm alive in this house with 4 people dead. The cops are going to think that I did it. I'm going to call a friend. I'm going to call a family member or something. Maybe there's some drugs that we need to get out of the house. Like, what do you guys, How do you guys feel about that? The time lapse in between when law enforcement was called.
Well, you want to answer?
I mean, are you talking about from the time that Dylan saw him walking by, or you're talking about the time from they woke up
When they
later on?
woke up. Yeah, when they woke up.
When they woke up. So, I mean, have I? If it was me seeing that scene, I would have called the cops first.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm trained to check for, you know, signs of life. You know, check for heartbeats and stuff like that. So I would try to help.
I do
if I
have a
can.
call. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Let's take this real quick. Opinionated idiot.
Hello?
Hello.
I'm trying to reach Bryan.
This is he.
This is Becky that was just put a thing up there about Ian Harsh.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to say that both Dr. Thrifty and TNT have already proved over a week ago, might have been 2 weeks, that Ian Harsh, their travel went by right by Ian Harsh's after the murder. And then it went back to Washington. He also stated back out the case that before the news ever put it out about the murder. So and he's been in the house also when he went over there. But he's also a few days after his last interview ran off to San Francisco. But he really is involved somehow, whether he knew about it or whether he did it. He sure has bushy eyebrows. They both have knives and both have issues, but and he does have some violence in his past because he actually had a warrant for his arrest for hurting his own mother and beat somebody in the head one time for stealing his weed. But I don't know how he's involved. He's involved somehow, and it's been reported by them to the FBI.
So you were saying that you think you were saying that you believe Kohberger has been in the house before, or Enan?
Enan.
Okay. So
Enan said he has been in the house before. Now, you know, he goes all over the place talking, but some of the information he gave up front about how they were killed and his thoughts and what, you know, all kinds of things were before the media ever put out anything. He said he went to Google and found it. But it was before the parents were even notified or the media put out anything. So he has some ties to it somehow, whether they're drug buddies or I don't know. I mean, there's no way I can know. But he's got ties to it somehow. So they have been informed.
Well, Becky seems to think that he's involved. So
what?
I said I was just kind of giving some context that you seem to think that he's involved.
Definitely involved somehow. He either knows all about it from Kohberger or he was involved in it. Because how else would he know that information before the news or anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and that path that Kohberger took, or the way the wine truck took, because we still don't have proof as to who's driving it, but I'm assuming they went to his parents' house, Enon Harsh's parents' house after the murder. That's where the drive ended up.
Okay.
So they had first, I can't remember the name of the place. They were saying Johnston, Idaho or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then it ended up that the amount of time worked out, miles and everything, and the cameras and everything worked out just right for him to go right to his home, his parents' home, Enon Harsh's parents' home, right after the murder, and then go to Washington, back to Washington. So if you watch those videos, Dr. Christie and TNT got together when he found out some things on his own, and then they got together, and she did a thing on oh gosh, I don't know what it's called, but she figured out the miles and the pings and
Sure.
the
Kind of lining up all the digital DNA. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
yes, and the cameras and everything.
Sure.
Well, I didn't want to take over your show or nothing.
It's
I just
okay.
wanted y'all to know that if y'all didn't know that already.
It's definitely interesting theory. I'll definitely look into more of this. I'm sure the gentleman will as well too. But I only got a couple more minutes with these guys before they do have to go. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, you go ahead.
But we appreciate you calling in. We appreciate you watching, and thank you so much for checking us out.
Now, one thing I do want to say on that, which is saying,
Have a good night.
It's a small town, right? So, there were people who saw the people that got called over, and the girls that found the bodies and stuff. So they had a little bit of information to put out there. And I'm pretty sure they didn't keep it to themselves.
Yeah.
And a small town like that, it's going to get around.
Go quick.
And so people knew some of the information already just because of the people that showed up before the police did. It wasn't a quiet, crime scene. There was already people there.
Yeah.
When she called and she goes, "Is this Bryan?" And you go, "Yeah." I was expecting her to say, "I've been trying to reach you about your car's warranty." I was waiting for it. I thought that was exactly what was about to happen.
That would have been great.
Yeah. Enon Harsh. I mean, there's a lot of rumors about him. I try not to go too far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Usually when you're looking at a case like this, or in any case, there's usually not that plot twist or whatnot that you're looking for. But as far as why somebody didn't call or whatever, I have a theory on it. My theory is that Dylan thought that the noise that she was hearing was party, right? She came home earlier and probably been asleep for maybe an hour or so, right? And I think they said that she had returned home at 1:45, and she was new to to that house, and so she goes to sleep. She's woken up by the noise that she thinks is Kaylee playing with her dog, like it says in the probable cause affidavit. And I think she thinks that there's something going on. She hears noises upstairs, and then she hears noise downstairs. She opens the door. I think she may have perhaps yelled out to be quiet, thinking that something else is going on.
Like, what the hell? Yeah.
And I think what happened there is, I think that startled Kohberger. Now, I don't think Kohberger was expecting to hear somebody yell out.
Yeah.
And so, because he wasn't prepared for it, I don't think he heard exactly what was said. I think he just heard somebody yell. I think that said, "Oh, that put him in a panic." Oh shit, I got to get out of here. He knows where the police department is in Moscow. He knows the distance from the police department to the house. He knows he doesn't have that much time. If somebody heard him and they're calling 911, he doesn't have time to, take out another person. And so he leaves, sees her and goes. Now, Dylan sees this person, doesn't, he's wearing a mask, so that probably scares her. I assume that she goes back in. She's not sure if she saw somebody who is a party goer or somebody who is, just committed a crime or is stealing something. I don't think she thought that he was committing the crime that was being committed. And so she begins to call the people in the house. and she calls Bethany. Bethany picks up the phone, gives her a false sense of security that
Mhm.
it's just them being loud or whatever the case may have been, and they go to sleep. They wake up the next morning. They wake up to the smell, afraid to walk out. They begin to call again. She calls everybody in the house. Bethany's the only one that answers. They call their friend. It's a neighbor. He comes over. He's best friends with Ethan, so he comes. He leaves in a hurry.
Right.
Leaves his phone behind. Goes into the house and goes upstairs. Sees the scene. He left his phone at home, so he yells to Dylan to call 911.
Right.
Dylan's in shock based
Panic.
on what's going
Right.
on, panicking. So he takes the phone and tells him what's going on.
Sure.
And so that's the way I think it went down.
Yeah, I feel very similar to that too. And again, maybe there was some again, I go back to freaking out. What do I do? You're trying to, this all just hits you like a bucket of water. You're in panic and you're like, the cops are going to think this or my, what do I do? And I think there was a lot of that going on as well too. But
Right.
I have to tend to think, I go in line with your theory as well too.
Yeah. And, it's just, it makes the most sense to me, with Kim and what she had said. And this is why I try to tell a lot of folks was like, some of the stuff that she was told was like a little bit of speculation, and it's also third party. And so any story that comes not from the source is going to grow. You're going to, it's like a fish story. I caught a 2-pound fish.
Right.
I told my buddy, and my buddy tells his buddy. By the
Like
time
telephone.
it gets,
yeah,
the time it gets to me, it was a 17-pound trout or something. You know what I'm saying? And so those things don't, you have to put that into perspective. What she had said was that they were aware that something had happened early that morning. And when she asked her daughter, why didn't they call earlier? Her daughter said, I don't know, probably to get drugs out.
Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't even a guarantee, a for sure thing. And that's what I try to tell everybody, but people would run with, oh no, they said that it was this. But, she had asked her why, and she goes, because it's a trap house. She said it was a trap house, but, Kim, she, like I said, that's the term she used. Somebody scored drugs there. It's possible. That's the term that her daughter told her it was.
Right.
And, there's been a lot of people that have said that in that area, there was known that you could score some drugs in that area. So maybe.
Yeah, there was I was kind of doing some research. I think recently there was a husband and wife that had been arrested for basically peddling heroin through their business right there in Moscow. And there is an article, I think it was just recently over this last year, and it was quite a significant amount of heroin. So I'm, listen, there's schools, there's students, there's action going on in that area, if you know what I mean. So,
well, in 2011, there was a teacher who was having an affair with a student there at the University of Idaho.
mm-hmm.
And or maybe not an affair, because I don't know if he was married or not, but he was having an inappropriate relationship with one of the students. And then he became physical with the student and threatened her and told her that he had fantasies of having orgies with students and then having a mass shooting.
Interesting.
And she reported that to the University of Idaho, and the University of Idaho told them that there was nothing that they could do because of a confidentiality deal. And so that if they were concerned, to go to the police department. Like, when I read that, I was like, wow, that's crazy. We read that article on our show when we were looking at some of the things that have gone on in the small town there, and it's still continuing to go on.
There was cartel activity there too, and I think that's where everybody's kind of getting the the drug angle to the house. I do know there was some cartel activity, in that area. So, I don't know, guys. We're at the hour. I don't know if you guys want to finish up, or I know that you had to go, Daniel. it's up to you. We can keep going, or if you got to go, no problem.
Yeah, we'll give you in there 10 minutes, man. Then I'll get going.
Yeah, for sure. So where do you think we go from here? Do you think we hear any more information leading up to June? I know that the gag order's been, demanded to be put in place. There's 30 report of 30 or 31 media outlets that were trying to inquire to release this gag order. I know everybody's chomping at the bits to get, more information or get more documents unsealed. Do you think that this kind of, as far as the information that's been sealed, the information that's been put out is all we're going to get? Do you think we hear more before June?
Perhaps the 911 tape might come out. What do you think, Blue?
Yeah, I think we might get a little bit more because I'm pretty sure those media groups and stuff are gonna probably want to, subpoena, try to get some info, even though I don't think it'll work, but I think they're gonna budge and give a little bit. Yeah, I mean the 911 tape, it's released almost in every single case, and so is the body cam footage from every single case when they pull up to the scene. So they haven't released that with these yet.
I hope we get the interrogation. I think that's the one I want to see. I want to see the interrogation video. I mean, we may not see that for a long time or just see it in trial, but that's something that I really want to see.
Apparently, it wasn't very long.
Really?
Yeah. It was a few questions. Apparently, once they started, he lawyered up quick.
He lawyered up quick, yeah.
Yeah. I was reading that which one was it? That they asked him a few questions, and then that once he saw that they were pointing in that direction, because he said that they asked him if he knew about the incident. He said, yeah, he lived less than 10 miles away, or about 10 miles away, and that everybody knew about it. And that as soon as they started pointing the direction at him, he said, I need my lawyer.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I've been saying it all along, and people just keep coming at me. I think the evidence is very, very strong.
See, I think it's him. I don't think it's very strong, though.
Really?
Yeah.
So riddle me this then. Why?
Well, first, all right. Well, let's play this game. You tell me what evidence you think is strong, and I'll tell you why it's not.
Sure. I think number one, DNA. The sheath, the DNA. And I heard you earlier. I had I went into the house. The knife was there. I lost it. That angle could be thrown out there. I think DNA is strong. I think all of the the timeline of where his car was lined up and spotted.
Well, let's take it one spot at a time. So the DNA. You say the DNA. Do you know how much DNA was on that sheath?
It was touch DNA. I don't know.
How much.
I don't know.
It was described as a speck of DNA.
Okay.
Now, would you believe that a speck of DNA would be? Would you rather? All right. What would be more likely to find a speck of DNA on something once handled, or something used in a crime like this? Only a speck, not a lot.
I'll give you that.
A speck.
Once handled. I give you that.
At one time handled,
sure.
Right? So, you would assume that if somebody committed a crime like this, that there would be more than one speck of DNA, especially on an item that was forgotten.
Okay.
All right. What's the next one?
So I think we have to look at the forensic DNA maybe of his phone. And the thing that I think that could be really strong in locating, pinpointing, go to the Murdoch trial. We saw very in detail of the accelerometer on his phone. They were literally detailing to every foot or inches that he was walking or where he was. I think that you're going to see a lot of that in this case as well. And I feel like that forensic DNA of his phone, I think is going to really pinpoint of where he was prior and to on the night in question. I think that's really strong, the timeline.
See, I'm not entirely sure. So with the pings that they have, one, this is a rural area in the mountains. And so there's valleys, there's mountains, there's things of that nature. So that's going to affect the accuracy of the pings that are involved. Number two, I'm not even sure they're going to be able to use them. You have to have the search warrant that they obtained to get his data for his phone was off of the fact that he drove a white Elantra that the police department came out and stated that that stated there was 90,000 or 20,000 or something like that Elantras in the area. And the fact that he is of average, 5 foot, well, Dylan described the person as 5'10". He's about 6 foot and 185 pounds. And the only description they had was the fact that he had eyebrows and the white Elantra. And so that's not enough to go and violate somebody's rights to utilize their personal cell phone data to figure out where they were at, in my opinion. And so, one, I'm not sure if that's going to be used. And two, the probable cause affidavit itself says that the reliability of those pings aren't there. In fact, on I think it's page, 16, maybe 15, it states that he connected to a tower in Moscow, but was not believed to have been in Moscow on November the 14th. And so those pings are probably not going to be as accurate as they would be maybe in other parts of the country.
You're crushing me here.
We've gone over these theories hundreds of times.
Yeah.
But, and the one thing also, he did turn his phone off.
I'm glad you said that.
Murdaugh turned his phone off.
I'm glad you said that. So I did some research on that. The accelerometer in your phone will continue to track data as your iPhone is off. So even if it's off, the battery is dead. And what will happen is when your iPhone is either powered back up or charged, that data will still be, it will now launch into the phone. So I actually talked about this on my show last night. So even if the phone was off, or even if the phone died, or, it still would record data. It still would have that data and steps.
Well, the data that it had before, but it wouldn't be able to record the data while it's off.
It would, yes, it still would. I can read you real quick. I'll read this to you. So just food for thought. Digital DNA. Does an iPhone record steps while in airplane mode? Yes. Steps are counted using the accelerometer built into the phone. It doesn't require any external connection. This is very important in the Murdaugh trial, as you can show. Alex, they showed where he was moving.
About off?
What's that?
That's in airplane mode. What about an off?
It still is in off as well, because it will still continue to record data in motion. That's what an accelerometer is. It's actually internal into the phone, programmed like that.
Huh. Yeah. Send me that. I want to look at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, then we can look at the white card too.
Sure.
If we were to look at his pings, and if you were to say that they're accurate, you can't look at some and say that they're accurate and others that they're not.
Right.
He was pinged at his house at 2:42. He was on camera 2 miles south at 2:44. Do you think that in order for him to have been in those two places, he would have traveled through Pullman at 60 miles an hour uninterrupted? Right. Now, the unique identifier that they're putting to Bryan Kohberger is the fact that he had a white Elantra without a front license plate. And they suspect that he didn't have a front license plate because he had Pennsylvania license plates, which didn't require a front license plate. And so if there's two vehicles out at 2:42 and at 2:44 that are white in color, four-door, that match the same description, both without front license plates, and that puts in question if Kohberger was even ever in Moscow, or if there was another vehicle out there that was out there as well with the same type of vehicle. The same thing also goes with the fact that he is seen or believed to have left somewhere around 2:47. I think it was 2:57, but he doesn't get seen until 3:26 heading westbound on the 700 block of Indian Hills Drive. I'll show you this. Let me preset this real quick.
Guys, real quick, there's 130 people watching. We're only at 77 likes. Just get us to 100. That's all we need. Just 100 for the algorithm. Just hit that like.
Share that.
Yeah.
All right. So I have all these pings marked up. This is Pullman, Washington. This is where this is his apartment complex at 2:42. He's there. I believe it is at 2:44. He's seen heading northbound. I think it's like a 2:57. He leaves here and isn't seen until 3:26 a.m., according to the probable cause affidavit,
Sure.
heading westbound on Indian Hills Drive. Problem with this is he's heading westbound. This is where the victim's house is, but he lives west of Moscow. So why is he heading that direction? Second thing is, they see him leaving that area, and it is assumed that he came to Moscow from there at 57. So that's 29 minutes for a 10-minute drive, maybe 15-minute drive. So where's the other 15 minutes?
Mhm.
Now, the other thing is he's seen leaving at 420 southbound on Walenta Drive. He is picked up by when his phone is turned on at 4:48 on the highway near Blaine. Now, from the victim's house to Blaine, Idaho is only 10 minutes away. From 4:20 to 4:48, it's 28 minutes away. So there's an 18-minute gap there. Now, he's seen leaving at a high speed, it's a high rate of speed. So he's probably traveling at a faster rate than the speed limit. And I would assume that he would continue to drive at a higher speed than the speed limit from throughout this entire time, whether it be adrenaline rush, the whole 9 yards from what he just did, getting out of there. Where did he go for 18 to 20 minutes that it took him that long to get here?
I think you should be his defense attorney.
Yeah, we've been going through these theories over and over, man. So
It's
does a lot of
interesting, and I love it because now I want to see how they're, if this does go to trial, how's the defense going to present this, But
Right.
maybe Kohberger, if this a retry, should hire you.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things in here that don't make sense. And there's a lot of holes in here that bring up question. And then you talk about the phone being turned off. The probable cause affidavit talks about him going to Johnson, Idaho, talks to him going to an Albertson and going all over this place. He's seen at a coffee shop. My thing was, all you're doing is showing a pattern that he drives long distances and turns his phone off.
Wow. Yeah.
If he can prove that he did that prior to this incident, then he can say that that's all that was just, I go on long drives at night sometimes.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? And so I'm gonna pull this up there.
Yeah.
So
And just remember, this is all speculation. This is all opinions.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all allegedly. We're all just allegedly talking here.
yeah. Now I actually had thought about at one point in my life trying to be a defense attorney, but I don't know if I could. I don't know if I want to get people off for doing things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I truly think that Kohberger did this. I just feel that. Well, here's the thing. I think that if the DNA in the car is what's going to be the If there's no DNA in that car, on that headrest, on that brake pedal, on that gas pedal, on the floor mat, on that seat, on any of those things that they took away from that vehicle. I mean, what they also did was they pulled off the rug and probably swabbed the metal everywhere.
Yeah.
And so
listen, just to play devil advocate here, there was DNA in the OJ case inside the Bronco and he fucking got off. So
that's true. That's true. But if there is none, there's absolutely none there.
He's walking.
Not only is he walking, I think he's probably innocent. This might be a situation where this poor guy was, trying to, he found one of these girls attractive and maybe trying to hit on them, and something nefarious happened to him, and he just looks extremely guilty. But if there is DNA in there, they got this guy nailed to the wall. The question comes: did somebody else help him? Or if it was him by himself.
Yeah.
So
Blue,
I think
go ahead. I was gonna say
I think he did give a little admission that he was there when he asked if somebody else was arrested. Instead of saying it wasn't me, I'm not saying anything until I speak to my lawyer. He's like, well, was anybody else arrested? So that to me says that he was there.
Yeah. But if I was a Kohberger's defense attorney, I'd just say, well, he was traveling cross country with his dad. He was concerned that maybe perhaps they arrested his dad or his mom or his family for harboring a suspected murderer. So, you know, there's a lot of things that probably could have gone into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, when it comes to almost every aspect of this case, I can pull holes into it, including the motive. I mean, you can point a direction at the ex-boyfriend like we did earlier.
Yeah.
You know, you can point at all these things. Now, when you look at this case as a whole, right, you have the white Elantra, you have the height, the weight, you have the guy following the girls, you have the fact that the phone was off during the time of the commission of the crime, you have the suspicious behavior, although it's not illegal and it's just, you know, could be signs of OCD with the
Right.
gloves.
Yep.
Yeah, but all this stuff, once you compile it all together, it does look like it's definitely pointing in the right direction. But it wouldn't be the first time that there's a lot of evidence pointing in one direction and it not be as it
100%.
seems. You know, Ron Logan in the, you know, Abby and Libby case, Delphi.
Yeah.
You know, FBI looked hard into him and he lied about his alibi. He asked for an alibi during the time in which the girls were committed, which time the girls were taken, and prior to knowledge of the girls' lives being taken. And so that usually implements that that somebody had something to do with it. But in reality, what it was he was on probation for DWIs, and he was out violating his probation, drinking alcohol during the time that these girls were getting you know, were their lives were being taken. All these things were happening while he was out drinking, and it happened on his property. He lied about where he was at the time because he didn't want to go to jail.
Yeah.
The result of the investigation ended up with him in jail for about 18 months, I think, for violating his probation, probably because he was drinking and or driving at the same time.
Yeah.
And so, you know, those things can happen.
Yeah, it does happen. It does happen. Yeah.
But the DNA also, you know, like everything kind of just plays its toll. But
yeah,
like I said, it's gonna depend on the defense team, and they're gonna get their own experts. They already have their experts in the house, or they've had their own experts in the house trying to break apart everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a defense attorney, much less a high profile murder defense attorney. And if I can put holes in this case,
yeah,
what does that make you think?
It's going to be a very, very, very interesting, I think, interesting and long trial if this goes to trial. I definitely do. And I think we're going to have a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, we want to go out there, so we'll see if we can make it out there, guys.
Yeah, I was just saying to my panel the other day, my subscribers, that I do want to, I'm thinking, you know, I'm leaning very heavily being out there in June for the first, you know, the first hearing, and spending a couple days out there and just getting around to the town and getting feel for the, you know, the lay of the land, I guess, if you want to say that. You know, that's something that I'd be considering. So I don't know, if you guys get out there, maybe we can all travel out together and meet out there and go from there, because I'd definitely be interested in that.
That'd be cool, man. Yeah, we definitely want to do that. We're trying to figure out which one we're going to do. It's probably going to be this one, though, because we had initially planned on trying to get out to Indiana for the Delphi case for their trial. But, you know, Delphi is something that we caught on to at the tail end of it.
Yeah.
After Richard Allen was arrested. This case here, we saw it from the beginning. And so we're definitely well more versed, invested in this case. And I like to see where it goes.
Absolutely. That's how I am feeling. I've just been, like I said, very invested in this. And I know, like, on my program, I do a couple of segments every night, but you know, this is really where my heart is right now, is I want to find out, you know, it's just, it's really captivated me, just like all the people that are watching this evening, you know, it's just a really interesting case. And there's so many twists and turns and things to look at back. And I like kind of like onions and peeling back all those layers and looking at everything. So
It's like somebody said on the chat that the hotel's already booked. Like, everything's booked in that area for that week, for weeks.
Wow.
Oh man, they're doing this way too early, man. This is gonna be moved again. It's gonna get moved again.
It's gonna get moved.
That's why we're like, I don't know, because last time we were thinking about a case and then they moved it 2 weeks later. And
And
but seriously though, let's stay in touch and we'll collab on that. Maybe we can all get out there and meet, and that'd be great. I'd love to meet you guys and hang out. So
Yeah.
Hell yeah, man, that'll work. We'll have you on our show here pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were talking beforehand about doing a collab with you and Publicly Buzzed, doing a little bit of something called Not Everybody Drinks Beer, but Beards and Beer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But, you know, I want to thank you so much for having us on, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, man.
I want to thank these guys a lot. Like I said, I mean, they didn't know me from a hole in the wall. I reached out to Daniel. We had a conversation back and forth to email. I'm very humbled and honored that you guys would take the time out of your schedule to come over here and hang out and bring in a very wide audience this evening. I appreciate every single person that jumped in the chat this evening, all the new subscribers, all the new moderators that I gave mods to, for pumping the chat and people that I took notice of, and hopefully all these new people have subscribed, and we'll continue this journey together. I'd love to work with you guys again in the future, and I'm sure that you'll see us back and forth on each other's channel. So
yeah, man,
sure.
I think people gave us a chance when we were a smaller channel. I mean, I still think we're a small channel. I don't think we're that big, but yeah. There was times we had like 50 subs, and we're like, well, let's hope this guest wants to come on because we're so small. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What the guy from Michael Myers say? We asked him if he wanted to be on our show. He's like, I don't talk to shows that have less than 1,000 subs. We're like, we're like at 500. I was like, damn.
Nah, dude, we weren't even at 500, brother. We were at 120. No, yeah, we're at 126. I told him 500 just because.
Yeah.
He's like, how many subs y'all have? I was like 500. And this was at Comic-Con here in San Antonio not too long ago.
I got
the actor for Michael Myers, the most recent one, not the most recent one, was the most recent series, but I think it was a different Michael Myers in this last one. It was the one in the first two. Well, anywho, yeah, he was like, how many subs y'all got? And he's like, y'all keep working, y'all get there. Yeah, 2 months later,
you
brother.
guys have, man.
2 months later.
I'm like I said, and I hope I can share this. We were doing backstage the other night, and I said, I'm really happy with all your success. You guys are really killing it over there, and you're very schooled in this. And I learned a lot this evening too. And if I ever needed a defense attorney, I would hire Daniel as my defense attorney, and Blue as my researcher. So
yeah, we'll find the loopholes for you, buddy.
Yeah, I think that's what we're pretty good at. Is like we'll put out a story, and then we're like, okay, we break it up, and then we look at different things, and we all have our different opinions.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it a decent show.
That's what we do here. That's what we do on the Opinionated Idiot show. So, guys, I want to thank everybody again for their time. I want to thank the chat. You guys have all been great. You guys crushed it this evening. We got to 111 likes in that chat. Thank you so much. I'm sure you'll be checking out the Drunk Turkey Show. Go over there if you haven't subscribed. Do that. Give them some love.
Yeah, we're like this close to making it over that to 34,000.
34,000.
Yeah, go over and help them out, man. So, Daniel, again, thank you so much. I'm very humble and honored to have you guys here. Blue, awesome show, man. I appreciate you guys. We're gonna hit the outro, and we'll see everybody again. Just to let everybody know, I live stream Sunday and Wednesday evening. Those are my solid nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just look for the reminders. You guys can check us out. All right. We'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.